ज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वन्दे वृन्दावनानन्दाम् राधिकां परमेश्वरीं गोपिकां परमां शुद्धां लादिनीं शक्तिरूपिणीं यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तद्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Dear devotees, this evening I'll be explaining a few of the lines from this Kirtan revealed by Jagadguru Shree Kripalu Ji Maharaj about Radha Rani. So let us sing the first couple of lines and then I'll begin explaining. भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा। भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा।
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा
भज विधि हरि हर राधा
भज सुर नर मुनि राधा भज विधि हरि हर राधा
भज सुर नर मुनि राधा भज विधि हरि हर राधा
भज सुर नर मुनि राधा भज विधि हरि हर राधा
भज ब्रह्म श्याम राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी 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 राधा
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा.
We'll build off what you've been hearing the last couple nights from Braj Banchari Didiji and also from my brief lecture this morning. Jagadguru Shree Kripalu Ji Maharaj says, worship Shri Radha with your mind. Bhaj man Radha, oh my mind. Worship, love, remember, meditate upon Shri Radha. She is the source of divine bliss. She is the essence of divine love. She is the nectar of all the sweetest experiences in the divine world. She is the personified form of all of that. Bhaj Sur Nar Muni Radha, Bhaj Vidhi Hari Har Radha, Bhaj Brahma Shyam Radha. Soi Mama Swamini Radha. Who's left? There's nobody left. Sura Nar Muni. Nar means us, the people of the earth. Sur means Devtas in Swarg. Munis means all the great saints. Vidhi Hari Har, the three governors of our Brahmand, and finally, Brahm, Shri Krishna, Purnatam, Purushottam, Brahm. They all do bhajan of Shri Radha. Never mind human beings and devtas in Swarg, they're all material beings. Think of Vidhi Harihar, Brahma, Vishnu, Shankar, and Shri Krishna. Yasyaikani shvasita kalamathavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandhanatha Vishnur Mahan Sa Ihayasya Kala Vishesho Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahma Sanghita. Sa ek eveshwarah narayano khila brahmandadhipati rekonshaha. Radhika Upanishad. Vedas are telling us, and Brahma himself is telling us in his prayer to Sri Krishna, that Sri Krishna's one ansh is Mahavishnu, who manifests the entire universe. This entire universe means the entire material existence, Purna Srishti. And that includes unlimited Brahmand. Brahmand means an elliptical planetary system that itself includes celestial abodes, we call Swarg, and an earth planet where souls reside, and also a Narak. These three things make a Brahmand. There are infinite such Brahmand in the universe, but there's one ruler of all those, Mahavishnu of Vaikuntha abode. And he is but ansh. He's a fraction of Krishna's total power. It's a part of his personality. He takes the form of Mahavishnu in order to do the work of Srishti, the work of creation. In this Brahmand, in this universe, there are not one Brahma, one Vishnu, and one Shankar, but infinite. Sankhya chet rajasamasti na vishwanam kadachana Brahma Vishnu Shivadinam tatha sankhya na vidyate. Devi Bhagavat Puran says even if you could count the number of grains of sand on this earth, you still couldn't count the number of Brahmand in the universe because it's infinite. Therefore, there are infinite Brahmas, infinite Vishnus, and infinite Shankars. Where did they all come from? They're all Ansh of Mahavishnu. So you see, Ansh of Shri Krishna is Mahavishnu, the creator of the entire universe. And within the universe, there are infinite localities, you could say, where souls reside. We call it Brahmand. And each of those localities has its own three governors, its own set of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So there are infinite Brahmas, infinite Vishnus, and infinite Shivas, and they are all Ansh of Mahavishnu, who is Ansh of Shri Krishna. The power of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar are known as Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati, or Durga. Therefore, there's a Saraswati, a Lakshmi, and a Parvati in each and every Brahmand as well, meaning that there are infinite Saraswatis, infinite Lakshmis, and infinite Durgajis. What does this mean? All of them worship Radha Rani. You learned in great detail from Banshri Didi the last couple of nights that Shri Radha Rani has a very special status. The essence of Shri Krishna's Chit Shakti or Swarup Shakti is called Hladini Shakti. The essence of that is Prema Shakti. The essence of that is Mahabhav. The essence of that is Madanakya Mahabhav. And Radha is the embodiment of that. So, Param Brahm, Shri Krishna, the Supreme Lord, whose one ansh is Mahavishnu, whose unlimited ansh are all the infinite Brahmas, Vishnus, and Shankars, who have unlimited Saraswatis, Lakshmis, and Parvatis. that Brahm Shri Krishna worships and surrenders to Radha. Krishnena aradhyate iti Radha. The name Radha has some different aspects of its meaning. One of the meanings is the one who is worshipped by Shri Krishna. So here Shri Maharaj Ji is mentioning that even Brahm Shri Krishna worships Radharani. So of course all of his ansh are going to worship Radha. Mahavishnu is going to worship Radha. All of Vishnu's ansh, unlimited Brahmas, unlimited Vishnus, and unlimited Shivas are also going to worship Radha. And unlimited Saraswatis, Lakshmis, and Parvatis are also going to worship Radha. So it is that Radharani whom we are specially celebrating today, although we chant her name and remember her every day here in Shree Rasheswari Radha Rani Temple. But today gives us a special feeling, remembering that this is the day that Radha actually made herself visible on this material plane, which we call taking avatar. So this Radha, as I mentioned, I'll explain the next line before we chant it. Hai Mahabhav Radha, Hladini Shakti Radha. See, what Shri Krishna is Supreme God. He is our soul of our soul, right? Our soul means our true self, our Atma, gets its life from Shri Krishna because he's residing within our soul, giving life to us. So he is Paramatma. He is the soul of our soul. Radharani is the soul of Shri Krishna. Atma tu Radhika tasya. Shri Krishna's Atma is Radha. How is that so? When I explained earlier today that Radha and Krishna are one, so now why are we saying Radha is the soul of Shri Krishna? Brahmavaivarta Puran says, Yathakshire chadhavalyam. Radha Krishna are so much one, like milk and the whiteness of the milk. You assign two different names to it, Dudh or Shvetima. Dhavalyam and Kheer. So you say milk and whiteness, but can you separate the whiteness from the milk? No. The whiteness and the milk are not two separate things, but we call them by two names. Similarly, Radha Krishna are one and the same. Fire and the power of the fire to burn. Can you separate those two things? We can call them by two different names. Ag and Dahakatva, fire and the power to burn. But can you keep the power to burn something over there and keep fire over here? No. The two cannot be separated. Similarly, Radha Krishna are one and the same. We say that Lakshmi is the power of Vishnu. Parvati is the power of Shiva. So the Shakti resides in the Shaktiman. The Shaktiman depends upon its Shakti. The base, the holder of the power, needs that power to function, but the power needs a base in which to reside. And the material analogy given is, if you have the fragrance of a rose, the fragrance can't just exist on its own, it comes from the rose, it exists in the rose. However, we could be more precise when talking about Radha Krishna, because in this case, the fragrance is one thing and the rose is one thing. They're two separate things, although they exist together. For Radha Krishna, take the analogy of kastur, camphor. The fragrance itself has taken the form of the camphor. When the fragrance disappears, is the camphor still there? No, it vanishes before your eyes. It disappears. So that fragrance of the kastur itself has become the form of that thing that you can hold in your hand. Similarly, the Shakti Radha herself has become Shaktiman, Shri Krishna. So how will you separate the two? You can't. And yet we say Radha is Atma. Shri Krishna, he is the soul of our soul, but Radha is the soul of our soul. There's a special reason behind this. So here Shri Maharaj Ji has said Mahabhav. Radha is Mahabhav. You learned that in great detail the last couple days, so I'm not going to go into more depth on this topic. Ladini Shakti Radha. This is an interesting statement. Ladini Sandhini Samvitvayeka Sarvasanshraya. Vishnu Puran mentions these three powers of Bhagwan Shri Krishna. You've heard of Shri Krishna's foremost power, his innermost power, Antaranga Shakti. It's also called Swarup Shakti, his personal power. That personal power has three aspects because Krishna is Sat Chit Anand. You learned this the last couple days as well. Sat, Chit, Anand, the three innate qualities of Bhagwan Shri Krishna. Out of these three qualities, or we call them bhav, there are three anubhav. Those three anubhav are Hladini Shakti out of Anand, Sandhini Shakti out of Sat, and Samvit Shakti out of Chit. What is the significance of these three aspects of Shri Krishna's personal power? Well, because of, take the Sadbhav ka Anubhav Sandhini Shakti. What is the effect on Shri Krishna? Because of this, his names, forms, abodes, leelas, and gunas, qualities, are all manifested. If you were to make Sandhini Shakti be dormant in Shri Krishna, he has no form, no names, no qualities that you could describe or discern. He wouldn't do anything either, no leelas. Then you have Samvit Shakti. Due to this Samvit Shakti, Shri Krishna has unlimited and ever-increasing beauty, sweetness, niceness, that he's pleasurable to be around. He's very sweet. He's ever young. These qualities are due to the Samvit Shakti. And Hladini Shakti is the essence of bliss, the essence of Anand, whose essence, as you learned yesterday, is divine love, Prem, whose essence is Mahabhav. So, in other words, all of these qualities come from Radha Rani. Why? Because she is the Mahabhav, which is the source of Prem, the divine love, which is the source of bliss, Hladini Shakti, which contains Samvit Shakti and Sandhini Shakti within it. What are we saying? We're saying without Radha, Krishna is Nirakar Brahm. Hamare liye bekar. Adrishtam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyapadeshyam ekatma pratyayasaram prapanchopashamam shantam shivamadvaitam Mandukya Upanishad. Tell me about Nirakar Brahm. He can't be seen, he can't be related to, he can't be interacted with, he can't be conceived in the mind, he can't be described. Then what can I do with him? Nothing. He's Nirakar. He has no qualities, no form, no names, nothing. That's Krishna's. If you make all of his qualities, all of his powers subsided or inactive, so Sandhini Shakti inactive, Samvit Shakti inactive, Hladini Shakti inactive, he's still a blissful divine existence, but without any discernible characteristics. That is Shri Krishna without Radha. This is why we say Radha is the soul of Shri Krishna, because with the grace of Radha Rani, her anch is this Sandhini Shakti that brings forth all the qualities of Brahm Shri Krishna, his form, his names, his qualities, his leelas, his divine abodes. With a fraction of Radharani's grace, the Samvit Shakti brings forth his unlimited Saundarya, Saukumarya, Saushilya. With a fraction of Radharani's grace, Shri Krishna is blissful through the Hladini Shakti. So this is why we say, this is one of the reasons we say Radharani is the very soul of Shri Krishna. She is Shakti, and she herself has become Shaktiman, Shri Krishna. So she is absolutely one with Shri Krishna, but in this discussion of the powers and the relationship between Radha and Krishna, we can say she is Atma of Shri Krishna. So here Shri Maharaj is mentioning she is Mahabhav, she is Hladini, and she is Brahma Roop. She is the very form of Supreme Brahm, Shri Krishna. Bhaj man Radha Radha, Ras Prema Sudha Radha, Braj Ras Varidhi Radha, Soi Mam Swami Radha. Hladini Shakti Radha,
Hey Mahabhav Radha, Hladini Shakti Radha,
Hey Mahabhav Radha, Hladini Shakti Radha.
Hey Mahabhav Radha, Hladini Shakti Radha,
Hai Brahma Roop Radha, Soi Mam Swami Radha. रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा।
हैं रसिकन धन राधा. Rasik Mahapurush are those who love Shri Krishna not as God, but as their beloved master, friend, child, or Priyatam, the beloved of their soul. These Rasik saints would not have the option of doing this if it were not for Radharani. So she is the treasure of these Rasik Mahapurush. Because Shri Krishna without Radha is Almighty Supreme God. He does the work of creating and maintaining the universe. He doles out justice according to soul's karma. He gives them the consequences. But the origin of Shri Krishna's sweetness, lovingness, and playfulness is none other than Radha. When Radha is there with Krishna, then this is his form. Tribhangi Lal. He stands even in a very stylish, playful way. He's not standing stiff and strict. This is how he is when Radha is there. If Radha is not there, Krishna is Mahavishnu. See, one time there was a Ras Leela going on, and Shri Krishna disappeared. Gopis were expressing their feelings of separation from Shri Krishna, and after some time he reappeared. But when he reappeared, he did so in the form of Vishnu. He had 4 arms and standing straight and serious. Still, same Shri Krishna, same beautiful face, but you can say as God. As Mahavishnu, he is God. He appeared in the midst of those gopis, and these gopis, they're Rasik Mahapurush. They are those saints who do not love Krishna as God, do not worship him as God. They do not worship God. They love Krishna. But when he appeared amongst them in his form as Vishnu, in his godly, majestic form, all those gopis hid their face from Shri Krishna out of modesty. They were wearing gungat, the end of their sari. They pulled it low on their face to hide their face from Shri Krishna out of modesty. Shri Krishna said, "Why are you being so modest in front of me? I mean, we were just doing ras together." Ras means singing and dancing with gopis. And just now you were crying for me to come, and now that I have reappeared, you're hiding your face from me? What's going on? So the gopis said, "We weren't calling you, we were calling our beloved Krishna." So Krishna, in the form of Vishnu, said, "Well, I am none other than Krishna." They said, No, you are not our Krishna." So this was going back and forth. Krishna is saying, "I am Krishna," and they're saying, "You're not our Krishna." So the gopis have a little meeting and they say, he says he's God, so I mean, God gives boons, right? Let's ask him for a boon. So Krishna says, yes, I'll give you any boon you want. So gopis say, "We want our beloved Krishna." Krishna says, "I am." So this is going on and on. Finally, Radha Rani appears. The moment Radha appears and Krishna sees her, his 2 extra arms vanish. and he becomes Tribhangi Lal Krishna. In other words, Radha just looks at him like that, and all of his almightiness is gone. Krishna cannot be almighty in front of Radha because Radha is that supreme love personified, and where love rules, there is no formality or majesty or even godly dignity. There is only love, intimacy, sweetness, proximity, relational proximity. So for these Rasik saints, Radharani is the life of their experience of Shri Krishna. Because of Radha, they get to love Shri Krishna like this. Now, a lot of people, this is a very common question. We say, you can love Shri Krishna as Supreme God. We call that Shant Bhav. You think of him as the king and you're the subject. You can love him with Dasya Bhav. You think of him as your master and you're his servant. So the first one relates to Mahavishnu. That's how devotees worship Mahavishnu, with that Shant Bhav. Dasya Bhav, you can love Krishna like that. Sakhya Bhav, you think of Krishna as your friend or brother. Vatsalya Bhav, you think of him as your son. And Madhuri Bhav, you think of him as your beloved. So people wonder, how do we love Radha? We also have the same options with Radha with some nuanced differences. So, of course, Radha's Ansh is Lakshmi. So you could worship her Ansh with Shant Bhav. Think of her as your divine queen, supreme divine goddess. Or you could think of her as your Swamini, Dasya Bhav. You want to serve Radharani. You can think of her as your sister or best friend. Today, when we had the Jhanki, we had King Vrishabhanu, Queen Kirti, and did you see the little boy who was with them as well? You might have been wondering who that was. And of course, they were carrying baby Radha. So the boy is Sridama, not Sudama, Krishna's friend when he went to Sandipani ashram. No, Sridama was Radha's elder brother. So like all elder brothers, they like to tease their younger sisters. Sridama and Radha had that type of relationship. Radha was always going and complaining to her mother that my brother is teasing me again. So this relationship, you can love Radha like that, like she's your sister. You can have Vatsalya Bhav with Radha. She is your own child, your own baby. Any age you want, from a newborn to any age of child. So people say, okay, this all makes sense, but how do we love Radha with Madhurya Bhav? Can we only love Krishna with Madhurya Bhav? See, in Madhurya Bhav, the devotee sees themselves and feels themselves to be a gopi. This goes for men or women. Souls are not assigned a permanent gender. We've all been born as women. We've all been born as men. Whatever you're born in this particular life is just your body for this life. Your soul can be born in any body, any species, and either gender. So we all have past sanskars of being men and women. So we have access to those feelings and emotions. Therefore, men can also see themselves, either men or women could see themselves as Gwalbals playing with Krishna or as gopis loving Krishna with Madhurya Bhav, the feeling of beloved. So, how does Radha fit into this picture? Well, in the feelings of Madhurya Bhav, you see yourself as a gopi. So the gopis are integral in all the leelas of Radha Krishna. If Radha and Krishna are going to meet somewhere, gopis generally arrange it, or they go ahead and prepare the kunj where they're going to meet, or somehow they have to get a message between Radha Krishna, Or if somehow Radharani is doing man, then gopis try to help smooth out the situation and arrange for a meeting between Radha Krishna. And who gets to do the seva in Radha's palace? Gopis. They get to sweep the floor. They get to cook and offer the food to Radha and Krishna. They get to fan Radha when she's falling asleep. They get to bathe her and dress her. They get to press her legs, her feet, to make her rest. Who's doing all this? Gopis. So the same gopis have the Madhurya Bhav for Shri Krishna, and as a part of their seva, they're having this interaction with Radharani. So we can see Radha as our mother. These gopis could also see Radharani as their mother, that they're serving their mother. They could see Radha as their best friend. They could see Radha as the beloved of Krishna. However you see it, if you see yourself as a gopi, you're in this Madhurya Bhav. And Madhurya Bhav doesn't just mean having feelings of milan and viraha to be with Krishna. It also means, let's say, Radha Krishna are sitting in a kunj dining, and you helped prepare the meal, and you're serving, or you're fanning, or you're pushing Radha Krishna on a swing. This is also incorporated into Madhurya Bhav. So we can also, seeing ourselves as gopis, we can see ourselves doing all these different sevas for Radha and Krishna, where we love Krishna as our beloved, but depending upon the nature of that particular devotee, they may be more inclined to think of Krishna. So they're thinking more of meeting Krishna or longing to meet Krishna, and they're thinking of those types of leelas, maybe just them and Krishna in the leela. Or they may be more naturally inclined to think of Radha. So they may be a Madhurya Bhav devotee who doesn't even think of Krishna, who is imagining all the time pressing Radharani's feet or sweeping the floor in Radha's palace. Or they may be an Ubhay Paksha gopi who is naturally inclined to think of both Radha and Krishna. So they're pushing Radha Krishna on the swing or doing any kind of seva like this, being involved in any leela with Radha and Krishna. All of this is incorporated into Madhurya Bhav. All of these are the options. We have this freedom to love Radha and Krishna in this way, in Madhurya Bhav. So Radharani is the dhan. She is the sole treasure of those rasic saints, because they only get these experiences, they're tasting all these different types of ras in these different leelas with Radha and Krishna because of Radharani's grace. And we also, the sadhaks, the devotees who are following the path of bhakti, we also aspire to one day experience these divine states and these divine interactions with Radha and Krishna. And in the meantime, or you can say as the means of reaching there, we meditate upon all these things as I was just describing. This is the actual path we call Rup Dhyan. Lovingly remembering Radha Krishna in any way, with any relationship, with any type of interaction. This is all Rup Dhyan. So Rasikan Dhan Radha hai Jivan Dhan Radha. She is the life of if Krishna is the life of our life and Radha is his life, so she is the ultimate treasure of our life and soul. Hai Mohan Dhan Radha. Banshri Didi was explaining that Shri Krishna treasures even the foot dust of Radharani and wants to put that on his head. And when he lies in the lap of Radharani, Yasya Anke Vilunthan, Shri Krishna just forgets. Golokakhyam dhamapadam naiva sasmar. He completely forgets about his own divine status and his divine abode when he lies, puts his head in the lap of Radharani. So she is the divine treasure of the Rasic saints, the souls, and even Shri Krishna. Bhaj man Radha Radha Ras Prem Sudha Radha Braj Ras Varidhi Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Bhaj man Radha Radha Ras Prem Sudha Radha Braj Ras Varidhi Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Hai Rasikan Dhan Radha Hai Jeevan Dhan Radha
Rasikan Dhan Radha Hai Jeevan Dhan Radha
Hai Rasikan Dhan Radha Hai Jeevan Dhan Radha
Rasikan Dhan Radha Hai Jeevan Dhan Radha
Hai Mohan Dhan Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Mohan Dhan Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Hai Kripamayi Radha Hai Premamayi Radha
Kripamayi Radha Hai Premamayi Radha
Hai Kripamayi Radha Hai Premamayi Radha
Hai Kripamayi Radha Hai Premamayi Radha
Hai Shyamamayi Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Shyamamayi Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Bhaj man Radha Radha Hai Prem Sudha Radha Braj Ras Varidhi Radha Soi Mam Swamini Radha
Bhaj man Radha Radha Ras Prem Sudha Radha Braj Ras Varidhi Radha Soi Mam
As I mentioned earlier today, Radha and Krishna both are always indulging in each other's style of ras. So, Shyamamayi Radha. Radha's every pore of her being is vyapt with Shri Krishna, pervaded by Shri Krishna. Her every pore keeps saying Shyam, Shyam, Shyam. So she is Shyamamayi. The remaining lines describe some of the ways that we can do Rup Dhyan of Radharani. So I'll briefly explain these and we'll sing these remaining lines. Gati Gajagamini. When you do Rup Dhyan, the image does not need to be static. In fact, it's better that if the image of Radha Krishna is not an image, it's real live Radha Krishna. So their eyes can move, their eyelashes can move, they can smile, they can walk. You can do Rup Dhyan just imagining Radharani walk. So then, how would I do that? Great saints, in their poetic compositions, they try to give us some help in imagining, okay, what's the best example to describe how Radharani walks? So, a very common example given, because it's the best possible example in this material world, although there's nothing that can compare to Radharani's style of walking, but a young elephant. If you've ever seen elephants, when they move, they're very graceful, right? But if you see a young elephant, they're even more, they walk in a very playful way and swaying from side to side, and all their movements is like a dance, basically. You would have probably seen it, if not in person, then on a video somewhere. So Gati Gajagamini, Radha's walk, the best way saints have thought to describe it is just think of how graceful that young elephant is when it moves, and then just think of Radharani's moving like that, almost like a moving dance. So we can do Rup Dhyan on this as well. Chavi Abhiramini, Radha's beauty is beyond description. She is, beauty personified is abashed in front of Radharani's beauty, put it that way. How to imagine her complexion? Tanu Duti Damini. Like a flash of lightning is so bright. So Radharani's complexion is like that, but it's not sharp. That's the only difference. The flash of lightning is sharp. So Radharani's complexion has that pure brightness, but doesn't hurt the eyes. So you can think of Radha being so fair complexion that she's like a bolt of lightning. So Kripalu Ji Maharaj says, keep singing Radharani's gunas, gaiya gunagana Radha, dhyaya nitya chavi Radha, always meditate on the form of Radharani, sumiriya leela Radha. I think there's a E missing in the Hindi, sumiriya leela Radha. Just think of Radharani's leelas. Piya chapat pag Radha. Piya, beloved Krishna, considers himself lucky to get the chance to hold Radharani's lotus feet in his hands and gently press her charan. Piya Rijhavat Nit Radha, he's always looking for new ways to rejoice Radharani. We have one Mor Kuti over here on the edge of Barsana Hill that's representing a Leela Sthali on Barsana Hill in India, where one time Krishna came, and I told you earlier today that Barsana is several miles from Nandagaon. It's about 6 miles. So Shri Krishna came one day and he was a little late. Radha had already gone out towards past Vilasgarh, past over towards Radha Kund. There's one place overlooking Radha Kund. that became known as Morkuti afterwards. It's a prominent rocky outcropping on Barsana Hill. So Radha was over there, and gopis knew what was in Radha's mind, that she wanted to feed the peacocks who were all gathered there. So they had already prepared laddus. And Radharani was feeding laddus to the peacocks, and they were excitedly taking them, eating them, and dancing around. So when Shri Krishna came, he saw this whole thing going on from a distance, and he decided he was going to take the form of a peacock as well. So he came in front of Radharani in the form of the most beautiful peacock, because he also wanted to get a laddu from Radha's own hand. And he came amongst all the peacocks. Not only was he the most beautiful, but instead of dancing in the normal peacock way, he was dancing with classical steps. So then the gopis knew something was up. Radharani is so simple and innocent that she would, always be deceived by Shri Krishna. But the gopis caught it, that this is no ordinary peacock. So this place where that Leela happened is Morkuti. This is just one example of what Maharaj is mentioning here. Piya Rijhavat Nit Radha. He's always finding ever new ways to rejoice Radharani. Piya Roma Radha. Just like Radharani is Shamamai, Shri Krishna's every pore just sings Radhe, Radhe. Chitta Ghana Sukha Ghana Ananda Ghana. So Brahm is Sat Chit Anand, right? But Radharani is the absolute origin of divine bliss, divine love, Sat, the power of divine existence, Chit, the divine consciousness, divine life. She is not just Sat Chit Anand, that's what Brahm is. She is the absolute origin of Sat Chit Anand. So she is Sadaghana, Sukhaghana, Anandaghana. And her body is the personified essence of that. Champakavarni. We just saw Tanu Duti Damini. Here Maharaj is giving another insight into Radharani's complexion. There's a champak flower which is fair with a golden hue. So Radha's complexion is extremely fair like the moon, but with a beautiful golden hue. So what you can imagine, if you've ever seen the champak flower, you could get some idea. Otherwise, you can just do your best to imagine what would be the most beautiful golden fair complexion. That is Radharani's. Jo bhaj Radha Radha tehi apanavati Radha. Radha is anxiously awaiting to accept anybody who surrenders to her in this way described by Shri Kripalu Ji Maharaj. So, O Radhe, de prema sudha Radha. Kripalu Ji Maharaj says, you are also my gracious Swamini, O Radharani, so please also give me the nectar of your divine love. Bhaj man Radha Radha Ras prema sudha Radha Braj ras varidhi Radha Soi mama Swamini Radha
Bhaj man Radha Radha Ras prema sudha Radha Braj ras varidhi Radha Soi mama Swamini Radha
Gati gaj gamini Radha Chavi abhiramini Radha सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
तनुरुति दामिनी राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
गाय गुणगण राधा ध्याय नित छवि राधा स्वामिनी राधा
सुमिरिय लीला राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
पिय चापत पग राधा पिय रिझवत नित राधा
पिय चापत पग राधा पिय रिझवत नित राधा
पिय रोम रोम राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
पिय रोम रोम राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
चित घन सुख घन राधा आनंद घन तन राधा
चित घन सुख घन राधा आनंद घन तन राधा
चंपक भरनी राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
चंपक वरनी राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
जो भज राधा राधा तेहि अपनावती 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 राधा
दे प्रेम सुधा राधा सोई मम कृपालु राधा
दे
सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा ब्रज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा जस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
भज मन राधा राधा रस प्रेम सुधा राधा भज रस वारिधि राधा सोई मम स्वामिनी राधा
बोलो राधा रानी की श्रीमत सद्गुरु सरकार की जय जय श्री राम।